Chapter 22. Joshua and Caleb arrived at Cot mid-morning the next day, greeting Cameron and striding directly to the spot on the athletic fields where the seemingly endless crowds could see and hear them. Their glorified bodies looked about the same age. Cameron guessed 40. They appeared fit and robust. Cameron whispered to them, "I will, of course, accede to your wishes, but before you begin, the children would like to recite to you in unison what they memorized from the scriptures yesterday. Would that be permissible?" Joshua and Caleb looked at each other and shrugged. "Forgive us," Joshua said, "but you must realize that even after all this time, we remain amazed at what we see in this new world. Life is not at all what it once was, especially in our day." "Especially the children," Caleb said. "But yes, by all means, let us hear from them." Cameron cued the kids, and from thousands of young voices came, "The Lord's anger was aroused on that day, and he swore an oath, saying, 'Surely none of the men who came up from Egypt, from 20 years old and above, shall see the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord.'" "Well, yes, amen and amen," Joshua said, again miraculously able to be heard by all. "Thank you, children. Caleb and I thank you. You are right that the Lord's anger was aroused. He made Israel wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in his sight was gone. You know, many people believe the wilderness journey simply took that long. But from the scriptures you know that the 40 years were a punishment for their lack of faith. If you trace our journey on a map, you'll see that we simply wandered around, getting nowhere. Now believe me, I know the story you want me to get to, and I promise I will tell it. But let me ask Caleb here to take you back to when he and I first met and labored together. It may be hard for you to believe, but we were once children just like you. Now don't laugh, we were." Caleb stepped forward. His voice was reedier than Joshua's, but just as loud and understandable. "Joshua and I were born in Egypt, while our parents and all the children of Israel were slaves. Even the adults, our parents and aunts and uncles, were called children, because they were the children of God, his chosen people. Joshua and I experienced everything the rest of our tribes went through in the wilderness after escaping. Joshua proved to be a mighty man of valor, serving as a commander in the great war against the Amalekites. He also ministered to our leader Moses when he went up Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments from the Lord. One day the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, 'Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. From each tribe of your fathers you shall send a man, every one a leader among them.' So Moses sent us from the wilderness of Paran according to the command of the Lord, all of us men who were heads of the children of Israel. That included Joshua, who was then known as Hoshea until Moses changed his name, and me. He told us, 'Go up this way into the south, and go up to the mountains, and see what the land is like, whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, few or many, whether the land they dwell in is good or bad, whether the cities they inhabit are like camps or strongholds, whether the land is rich or poor, and whether there are forests there or not. Be of good courage, and bring some of the fruit of the land.'" I was glad he added that last, because it was the season of the first ripe grapes. So we went up and spied out the land from one end to the other. When we came to the valley of Eshcol, which is not far from Hebron, we cut down a branch with one cluster of grapes so large we had to carry it between 2 of us on a pole. We also brought some of the pomegranates and figs. We finally returned from spying out the land after 40 days, bringing back word to Moses and his brother Aaron, and all the congregation of the children of Israel, and we showed them the fruit of the land. We told Moses in front of all the others, "The land where you sent us truly flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified and very large." Now I could see that this report troubled the people, and while the report was true, I believed God was in this and wanted us to proceed. I quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it." But some of the others who had gone with me said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." And they gave the children of Israel a bad report, saying, "The land devours its inhabitants, and all the people are of great stature. We saw giants, and we were like grasshoppers compared to them." Now, children, while this may have been an exaggeration, it was close to the truth. Still, I believed we were to trust God for the victory and follow him into the land. But all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should become victims? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us select a leader and return to Egypt." Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. But Joshua and I tore our clothes and spoke to the children of Israel, "The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." But the people wanted to stone us. Then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle before all the children of Israel. The children jumped up and cheered, surprising Caleb and making him look to Joshua, who urged him to continue. The children sat again. Then the Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people reject me? And how long will they not believe me with all the signs which I have performed among them? I will strike them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." And Moses said to the Lord, "Then the Egyptians will hear it, for by your might you brought these people out from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, Lord, are among these people, that you, Lord, are seen face to face, and your cloud stands above them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and in a pillar of fire by night. Now if you kill these people, then the nations which have heard of your fame will speak, saying, 'Because the Lord was not able to bring this people to the land which he swore to give them, therefore he killed them in the wilderness.'" And Moses continued, "I pray, let the power of my Lord be great, just as you have spoken, saying, 'The Lord is long-suffering and abundant in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression. But he by no means clears the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. Pardon the iniquity of this people, I pray, according to the greatness of your mercy, just as you have forgiven this people from Egypt even until now." Now, children, do you know what God did? He changed his mind. Yes, it happens, and this story proves it. The Lord said, "I have pardoned according to your word, but truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all these men who have seen my glory and the signs which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have put me to the test now these 10 times, and have not heeded my voice, they certainly shall not see the land of which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who rejected me see it." Joshua stepped forward. "Now let me tell this part, my brother. God continued to speak to Moses, saying, 'But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit in him and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land where he went, and his descendants shall inherit it.'" Again the children leaped to their feet, clapping and cheering, but now both Joshua and Caleb held up their hands for silence. "There is so much more we want to tell you," Joshua said, smiling. "Please sit." Caleb spoke again. "Then Moses went up to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, across from Jericho, and the Lord showed him the land. And the Lord said, 'This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there.' Now, children, Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab. He was 120 years old, but his eyes were not dim, nor his vigor diminished. We children of Israel wept for Moses for 30 days. Can you guess whom the Lord chose to be the next leader of the children of Israel?" Many kids shouted, "You!" and others yelled, "Joshua!" "Some of you are right," Caleb said. Joshua was full of the spirit of wisdom. It came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, Moses' assistant, saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over to this Jordan, you and all these people, to the land which I am giving to them. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon I have given you, as I said to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage, for to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, "Pass through the camp and command the people, saying, Prepare provisions for yourselves, for within 3 days you will cross over this Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess." Joshua told the people, "Remember the word which Moses the servant of the Lord commanded you, saying, The Lord your God is giving you rest and is giving you this land. Your wives, your little ones, and your livestock shall remain in the land which Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan. But you shall pass before your brethren armed, all your mighty men of valor, and help them, until the Lord has given your brethren rest as he gave you, and they also have taken possession of the land which the Lord your God is giving them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession and enjoy it, which Moses the Lord's servant gave you on this side of the Jordan toward the sunrise." They answered Joshua, saying, "All that you command us we will do, and wherever you send us we will go. Just as we heeded Moses in all things, so we will heed you. Only the Lord your God be with you, as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your command and does not heed your words shall be put to death. Only be strong and of good courage." Joshua sent out 2 men to spy secretly on Jericho. So they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country." But the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said, "Yes, they came to me, but I didn't know where they were from. And as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, the men went out. Where they went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them." But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax. As soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said, "I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the Amorites on the other side of the Jordan, whom you utterly destroyed. Our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you, for the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death." The men answered, "Our lives for yours, if none of you tell this business of ours. And it shall be, when the Lord has given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with you." Then she let them down by a rope through the window, and the men said, "When we come into the land, bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down." When they returned, they said to Joshua, "Truly the Lord has delivered all the land into our hands, for indeed all the inhabitants of the country are faint-hearted because of us." Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from the acacia grove and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, "When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before." Then Joshua said to the priests, "Take up the ark of the covenant and cross over before the people." And the Lord said to Joshua, "This day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant. When you have come to the edge of the water, you shall stand in the Jordan." So Joshua said to the children of Israel, "By this you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you all your enemies. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over before you into the Jordan. And it shall come to pass, As soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, the waters shall be cut off, and they shall stand as a heap. And, children, so it was. When we set out to cross over the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the ark dipped in the edge of the water, the flow was cut off, and we crossed over opposite Jericho on dry ground. The children were cheering again, but Joshua held up a hand for silence. Caleb continued, "The Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, 'Take for yourselves 12 men, 1 man from every tribe, and command them to take for themselves 12 stones from out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priests' feet stood firm.' Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and we hurried and crossed over. About 40,000 prepared for war, crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho. You see, on that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and we feared him as we had Moses. And Joshua commanded the priests, saying, 'Come up from the Jordan.' And when the soles of their feet touched dry land, the waters of the Jordan returned and overflowed all its banks. We came up from the Jordan and camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones we took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Then he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, 'When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, "What are these stones?" you shall let your children know, saying, "Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry land, for the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, just as he did the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over." And young ones, here is why. Are you listening? "So all the peoples of the earth may know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that they may fear the Lord their God forever." Will you vow to do that, will you? Raise your hand if you will. All over the athletic field, youngsters raised their hands, and many waved. All right, we're getting to the story you've all been waiting for, and I know you want to hear it from the man himself. More applause as Joshua traded places with Caleb. We had been in the wilderness for more than 40 years by now, and it was time to possess the land. We camped in Gilgal on the plains of Jericho. We ate of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and parched grain. The manna from the Lord ceased the day after we had eaten of the land, and we ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. One day I looked, and behold, a man stood opposite me with his sword drawn. I went to him and said, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" He told me he had come as commander of the army of the Lord. I knew who he was. Do you? He sits on the throne in the temple even today. I fell on my face and worshipped and said, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army said, "Take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is holy." And so I did. Now the people of the city of Jericho knew we were nearby, and so it was locked up tight, no one going in or coming out. The Lord said, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all you men of war, once every day for 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. It shall come to pass, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, that all the people shall shout with a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat." I called the priests together and told them what the Lord had told me, and I instructed the people, Proceed and march around the city, and let him who is armed advance before the ark of the Lord. You shall not shout, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you, shout. Then you shall shout. So I had the ark of the Lord circle the city, going around it once. Then we came into the camp and lodged. And I rose early in the morning, and the second day did the same thing. We did this every day for 6 days, as the Lord had commanded. Well, you know what happened next, so perhaps my friend and I should leave now. The children leaped to their feet, crying, No, no, stay and tell the rest. Joshua smiled broadly and signaled them to sit and be quiet. All right, you persuaded me. On the 7th day we rose about dawn and marched around the city, only this day we circled it 7 times. On the 7th time around, when the priests blew their trumpets, I said to the people, Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction, it and all who are in it. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. All the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are consecrated to the Lord, and shall come into his treasury. So when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, they shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. The children were cheering again. Then we marched straight in and took the city as the Lord had commanded. We utterly destroyed it and everything in it with the edge of the sword and with fire, protecting only the harlot who had been faithful to the Lord and her family. Caleb stepped forward once again. So you see, little ones, the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout all the country. You too can be blessed of the Lord if you remain strong and have courage, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and remain obedient and faithful. Joshua closed the time with the children by praying, but when he finished, the children pressed forward. They wanted to touch the men, to ask more questions. For more than an hour, until Cameron could restore order, kids milled about, leaning in, their faces expectant as they clearly longed for their moment with these heroes. Unlike when Noah had visited, for some reason very few of the children left with their parents when it was over. Kenny was overwhelmed with kids who had questions and others who wanted to act out the scenes they had just heard. Some asked if they could build stone monuments, and Kenny promised to try to find stones small enough so everyone who wanted to could do it. He was most impressed, however, with children who had deduced that the commander of the Lord's army was Jesus himself. One little boy said, "Mr. Williams, I want to be in Jesus' army." "Oh, don't you realize," Kenny said, "he accepts only those who trust him for forgiveness of their sins and for salvation." "I will." "You will? How will you do that?" "I'll tell him." "Right now? Can I?" "Yes, and you don't even have to travel to the temple. Just pray to him and tell him that you know you are a sinner and that you want his forgiveness. Then ask him to be your Savior and thank him for dying on the cross for your sins. You know that story, don't you?" "Sure, everybody knows that. At least everybody here." "Do you understand that Jesus wants you to decide to follow him?" The little boy nodded, and Kenny prayed with him. He couldn't wait to tell Yekaterina, and he was sure she would have similar stories. Abdullah sat in his cramped new office at the back of the tall headquarters in Amman, reading his Bible and making notes for a lesson he was prepared to give if ever asked. He looked up when he realized Sarsoor was peering at him from the other room. "Need anything?" Abdullah said. The young man, wiry and nimble, shook his head, but his body language gave him away. He seemed drawn to Abdullah. "Feel free to come in, anytime, chat, or just sit." Sarsoor wandered in as if he could take or leave the invitation. He pretended to study stuff taped to the walls, but it was all old and faded and likely had been affixed there by him, so Abdullah knew he was just self-conscious. Abdullah went back to his reading, keeping an ear open. He began to hum an old hymn and then softly sing. Oh, the love that sought me, oh, the blood that bought me, oh, the grace that brought me to the fold, wondrous grace that brought me to the fold. Finally, Sarsor sat. Abdullah slid his Bible and his papers to the side and looked at him expectantly. You really believe this stuff, huh? Sarsor said. I do, and you don't? Of course I don't. I'm a taller. Your parents have to be believers. Yeah, but it's not for me. They tried to raise me in it, but as soon as I started reading other stuff and talking to other people, I realized the Bible isn't the only idea. What about all the prophecies that have been fulfilled, all the people who have been resurrected, the ones who have already been in heaven? And what about the fact that Jesus is with us now and sits on the throne judging the nations? Sarsor shrugged. It's like he's head of the occupying army. We're the resistance, that's all. The rebels. And you don't feel destined to lose in the end? We're outnumbered. We're the outcasts, the rejects, the dregs. But we won't give up hope until it's all over. And then we'll see who wins. Your compatriots, the ones who reach 100, are dying every day. I know. Do you know of any exceptions? No. And that doesn't tell you anything? It just proves God isn't who he says he is. How do you figure? He's mean and unloving and unforgiving, violent and judgmental. Disagree and you get killed. He's not willing that any should perish, even you, Sarsor. Don't start with me. How about I tell you my own story? I wasn't always a believer, you know. I was raised in another religion entirely. Sarsor shrugged again and looked away. I don't need to hear it. Abdullah cocked his head. Sometimes I just need to tell it. How about I talk and you listen only if you care to? I already told you I don't need to hear it. And I told you I need to tell it. I was married to a beautiful woman and had 2 precious children. I was a decorated fighter pilot in the Royal Jordanian Air Force. Sarsor had stood and was moving away as if he couldn't care less, but that last stopped him. You were? Yes. I was what some would call a star. I taught, and I was given the best assignments. I considered myself religious because I followed all the tenets of my faith, keeping away from impure things, trying to do right, praying at prescribed times every day. Then something happened to my wife. Abdullah fell silent and Sarsor sat back down. What? What happened to her? Oh, you don't want to hear it. It's okay. If you need to tell it, you can keep going.